Yeah.
Okay, so Michael started the recording. Thank you, Michael. And today is the 23rd of June, and Dhammarato is in the hospital at the moment. From what I heard, he's recovering quite nicely. He's still a bit low on energy, so that's why I will be hosting the call today. And thank you all for coming. And Ivan was asking a question about renunciation. And basically, so what you were asking was, for you, it doesn't work to go from 0 to 100. So from, yeah, like indulging in different sorts of unwholesome behaviors. Yeah, you want to, or maybe trying to go to abandon it all at once, and that's not working out. So you're wondering what to do with that. And yeah, that's a really great question, because that's something that I, as a new monk, am also yeah, it's like a big thing for me. One of the yeah, things that I try to renounce, I guess, is like using my phone a lot and using my iPad a lot. And I think that's like a common theme for many yeah, people nowadays. And yeah, the Buddha talks about renunciation as something that is quite ordinary. So yeah, something that ordinary people do. Because yeah, when you say like, now I'm really done with it, now I'm never gonna do it again, and still you will end up doing it again, because yeah, these habits are so strongly ingrained into our mind. And so it really is like a skill to be developed moment after moment, whenever we can remember. And for me, I found actually a quite interesting way to deal with it. And that is that Dhammarato often talks about seeing with wisdom and using that to, yeah, to put down, to abandon our unwholesome behaviors. And in the suttas, what I found was that actually the Buddha recommends to first follow the precepts, like as a fundamental, yeah, as a fundament for the practice. And then I thought, well, I've tried doing the precepts first and then gaining the wisdom. And I've tried gaining the wisdom, leading to the ending of those unwholesome behaviors. But why should I not try to do the seeing with wisdom first? And if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have some backup. So yeah, what I've done now is, and I'll actually show you this. This might be helpful for some people. And this this might be, yeah, this might be a bit unusual. I see Katal laughing already because he knows what it is. But I bought a time-locked box for my, for my
That's a good
phone
idea.
and yeah, for my iPad. And I can also put like food in it and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the way that it works is I just put my phone in, and I can lock it for like a day or something, and then yeah, I will not be able to access my phone or my iPad. And yeah, what I try to do is first I try to see with wisdom, like, do I really need to use my phone right now? Why am I using my phone? Is it because this moment is not good enough? And usually that's the case. That's my attitude about the moment. And yeah, first I will try to yeah, really like with wisdom, try to abandon that state. And if I still after a while feel like, okay, well, if I don't like lock my phone away, then I'm gonna end up like using it and maybe like using it all day. So it's better to just lock it away, because at least that way I'm like renouncing in an ordinary way, but I still get like a lot of benefits. So it like points me in the right direction. And obviously, like for a phone, this might be an easy way out, but for like other precepts or other unwholesome behaviors, this might be a bit more difficult. So I just wanted to give this as an example, and maybe, yeah, you can tell about, yeah, what you are trying to renounce. So maybe we can take a look at that.
Yeah. So the thing about usually the thing that triggers me in daily life is always it's always when it comes to stress. As Dhammarato always say, wanting something, and my stress is because I want to achieve certain goals, and the stress, which kind of just it just makes me so restless, and the only way I could cool off that stress was basically just to masturbate, to put it really simply.
Right.
And it has, it almost like nothing would quench that restlessness if the stress was triggered. Not even working out, not even, well, maybe it could, but it's almost like it's like an uphill battle. I never, I mean, it's very random. It's almost like it's today the day that I gave in, and I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It's I mean, if that was the only problem, I would be fine with it. It's just um it's hard to say. It's like this unwholesome kind of just spread through everything. I'm not sure if I'm exaggerating it. Like I find myself when I'm in that state, I start to argue with people more. Um, I I don't know. It's, I my mind just not stable. It's all over the place. Like as it's almost like I have to give in to that pressure, right? Like there's a pressure I need to release, and
Right.
nothing seems to work. Well, sometimes it works. It
Yeah.
only doesn't work if the triggers come from stress, which it happens here time and time again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like pressure creates heat, and yeah, that's when we really forget to practice. And yeah, and when you're in that restless state, like yeah, we often like kind of forget the tools that we have in our toolbox, the things that we need the most in that moment. And yeah, this is something that I've been learning to abandon as well. And yeah, I will just share something here that I learned at a Thai monastery here. Um, and it has been really helpful for me, even though it's not found in the suttas, and I never heard Dhammarato talk about it. But what this Thai teacher told me was, when you are really, really restless, um, yeah, one thing you can try to do is to sit down and focus on the tip of your tongue. Um, and I've, yeah, experimented with this, and this is for me really, really effective to get like the mind down to a level, yeah, where I can begin to work with it. Because if your mind is like extremely hot, then yeah, then like sitting down sometimes is maybe not the best option. Like it would be good like walking meditation sometimes helps. But yeah, for me, when I focus on the tip of my tongue, it's really useful because it's a really coarse sensation. So it's quite easy to focus on. And what I do is like, I don't really try to have wholesome thoughts necessarily, but I just, whenever something unwholesome comes up in me, I just abandon it immediately. And when I practice in this way, I feel like sometimes I will have been in like a really hot state for like 30 minutes. And when I do this, like within maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I've really cooled down to a level where I can begin to practice like I normally do. So that's something that you could maybe try.
It's
Yeah.
so focus on the tip of the tongue is like kind of not really necessary sitting down, right? Like you can.
Yeah.
I see.
Right. You can. Yeah. You
May
can
I
do
add
it
something
standing
here?
up as well. Yeah. Sure. Go ahead.
Yes, Ivan. It's pretty familiar if we're talking about habits. Another thing I've been practicing and I've been suggested by Dhammarato itself is once these habits are happening, as you said, it's like pressure and you just can't help yourself, is to turn is to practice while doing it. You still can give yourself that release, but at least you're practicing while you're doing it. I don't know if you're, for
I get it.
example, saying masturbation, you can still turn your attention towards it and towards the feelings and start changing right there and then while it's happening. You can almost fixate on the sensations you're having. You can almost like it's like for me the struggle was like with weed. I could not put down a joint, so I would still go out and get a joint, and I would pick up a joint and I would be taking a couple puffs. But then once that craving is satisfied to a certain point, I would say I don't need to go no more. I can stay here and see what happens. And if I happen to pick up a joint again, it's fine. I continue to practice again. But the whole point of this is just not judging it. Judging yourself for that behavior is actually you're reimbursing the same pattern almost to re-arise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because I kind of just forgot it. And thank you for the reminder. That's something I used to do. I'm not sure why I forgot that.
Actually, that's an interesting point that got brought up because in the suttas it also mentions that the danger is not necessarily like in the action itself, but it's about the fact that we don't like that we do it. So that's where really the dukkha comes from. Yeah.
Exactly.
Drew, I saw that you have your hand raised up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dhruv, bowing in, as they say in some traditions, and I just like to carry
Sure.
over that. Yeah, I wanted to first say that my sympathies and my karuna goes out to you. I mean, this is a tough situation, but I want to assure you that you're in a good group of friends, and I want to thank you for sharing, and I want to just encourage you to keep practicing because this is a solvable problem. And I would also want you to, I mean, everything that's been said so far is brilliant, so you can keep going with that. I wanted to suggest in terms of restlessness, there's other practices like Qigong, Tai Chi, which are a bit more structured than walking meditation, and they give your mind something to do. So if you haven't tried those already, give them a shot. I found that they've worked with some of my friends quite well. And aside from that, practicing metta towards yourself when you're feeling good, and especially when you're not feeling good. As was said by Carl earlier, in some sense, the judgment makes it more likely that we feel bad, and once we feel bad, we're more likely to do the habit, and it feels very strange to not judge yourself when you've done something quote unquote wrong. But you can try it, and then you can see what the consequences are. And the consequences are that you feel lighter immediately. And so your mind gets that cue that actually, no, I can be a safe place for myself. I can be a wholesome place for myself. I can give myself what I need without giving myself what I want. And what you actually want is some sort of love, kindness, attention, safety, security. And those things are not dependent on external conditions. So you can practice doing that. You know, start with, and maybe if it's difficult towards yourself, start with someone that it's really easy towards. Maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's Dhammarato. That's a very easy person to practice metta towards. So, so you know, you wouldn't wish Dhammarato. Imagine if Dhammarato said, "Oh no, I got angry at a student." Obviously, very unlikely, but imagine it happens. Or, "Oh no, I got angry at the immigration office in the Thai." And now I'm feeling bad about it. And it's like, I'm supposed to be a teacher. I'm not supposed to get angry. It's like, Dhammarato, you got angry once in 3 years. It's all good. Chill. Right? Obviously, made up example, but that's the attitude, right? We're laughing about it. It's like, dude, it's all good. It's all good, all good. And keep going, right? So just wanted to send my positivity. Like, it's really, and actually it's really inspiring to hear about this because, you know, I mean, I can reflect on my own journey, and I don't want to derail it because it's about you right now, but like, it's very similar. Like maybe the slight details are different, but and so yeah, it's metta towards you, metta towards myself, metta towards the Sangha for coming together and discussing these things, which is a rare, you know, it's a gem, as they say. So positivity, and yeah, maybe try some Tai Chi as well, or Qigong. Group bowing out.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for saying that. You mentioned about focusing on the need instead of the want. Like, yeah, I really need to hear that. Thank you.
It's also what I find really helpful is to see the lies that we tell ourselves, because yeah, I remembered that like last week that Dhammarato gave a talk about that, and it's really helpful to see the lies in things, because we really start to believe that we cannot make a change, that we really need those things. And if you can catch yourself like, I see that lie, then yeah, it can really really help like change that attitude to a winner's attitude. Amit, I see you got your hands. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to ask. I mean, there's and what Yvonne was saying, right? So there is maybe a craving, maybe for a joint or something else, masturbation or something. Then comes a restlessness. So there's a hindrance is changing into restlessness. And can you say then there is also this hindrance of restlessness in changing into doubt? Suppose you start smoking a joint and then you start thinking, I'm doing it right. Should I smoke it? Should I not smoke it? And when you are kind of putting the joint down, once your craving is satisfied, and you are like attacking or overcoming the. Is it right to say, Daniel, in your experience from the Sutta reading?
I don't smoke weed, but if you're talking about the doubt that comes with the restlessness, yeah, this is a really frequent theme for me as well. That's when I'm restless. Yeah, I'm just like in doubt, like, can I make a change? Do I need it? Do I not need it? Basically trying to figure stuff out. That's really, really common for me when I'm restless. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ground
I also
is I mean that you can't find you cannot like attack it, but you cannot deny it. You cannot do it, but you cannot also not do it. So there's a balancing act in there somewhere as well, because not doing it usually raises more dukkha. So for example, you deny yourself that joint, eventually it builds up, and then you go into a cycle where you go off for like a month and you completely become you ditch your practice and you ditch everything. But we have to understand that we're human and we have to bring our practice into every moment that we're caught up. We don't have to bring it up in a month, in a week. We have to bring it here as we are right now. So that's the focus.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely very helpful. And also this practice, you smoke a weed. I mean, like sometimes I have this urge, usually on weekend, to smoke. And I'm thinking, should I not? And some weekends I don't, but some weekend if I do, then I will smoke maybe like 2 joints. But maybe I will practice, maybe start but don't finish, right? Once your urge is satisfied, you don't have to finish it. So that definitely looks doable, and I will let you know if how it helps. And also this tip of the tongue, focusing on tip of. Thanks, Daniel, for this. So this is usually working with restlessness, is it? Not with the other hindrances. Not with the other hindrances. Sloth and torpor, or
Sorry, I can't hear you very clearly.
sorry. So I say this focusing on tip of the tongue is mostly working with the hindrance of restlessness, or does it also work with the? Have you also tried it with the other hindrances, like sloth and torpor?
Yeah, I basically see it as like an extra item for Sutta number 19 in the Majjhima Nikaya. There the Buddha gives 5 ways to get unwholesome thoughts out of the mind. And Ivan, I really recommend you to also read that sutta.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically the first item or step you would do is, and like you don't really have to see it as a list that you have to go through. Like you can kind of like feel like what would work in which situation. But the first item is to change to the wholesome. So you have an unwholesome thought, and then you just think, yeah, everything's all right now. So you can try that. And if that doesn't work, then the Buddha recommends to see the danger in the thoughts that you are having. And this, by the way, is really helpful for dealing with things like masturbation, smoking weed, using your phone. Because if you, like evaluate like what will happen if you start engaging in those thoughts, like how your mind will heat up, then that can really help like to bring about the dispassion. And you just feel like, I don't even want to bother with it because it's just not attractive anymore. And then the third one is forget about it. It's interesting when you can just see how Dhammarato uses that brilliantly. And then number 4 is a simile where the Buddha says like, why should I run if I can walk? Why should I walk if I can stand still? Why should I stand still if I can lay down? So that's basically you're evaluating like how much effort you are putting in into having these thoughts, and how it's like really making you tired, like worn out. And that can also help bring about the dispassion. And then number 5 is to clench your jaws and press your tongue against the roof of your mouth. And what I like to add to that is that I will tense up like every muscle that I can find in my body, and I will like really tense it up until I start to become like lightheaded. And I guess like you can play with it. So like, and then what I do myself is like, if all that doesn't help, then I use the focusing on the tip of the tongue. And what I found interesting about it is that Not only does it like remove the unwholesome thoughts from me, but because it's like a kind of concentration practice, it suppresses like the hindrances so easily, so quickly, that you actually start getting like quite a lot of piti and sukha sometimes from doing it. And like this is not necessarily like the piti and sukha that we're after in doing our practice, because it comes from like a suppression instead of changing. But yeah, it can really help to get like that initial piti and sukha going, because when you're already a little bit in that state, it's really easy to switch to the wholesome thoughts. And yeah, this list brings to mind another sutta that can be helpful. And that is a sutta discussed with Dhammarato a while back. And there the Buddha explains the dangers in sensual pleasures. And one of the dangers, or one of the similes he gives, is as if you were a dog that's gnawing, that's like, I don't really know the English word, I guess it's gnawing, like on a bone that has no blood on it and no marrow in it. So what do you think, Ivan? What is the dog gonna get from gnawing on that bone? Is he gonna be happy, or is he gonna be worn out? Just tired?
Tired eventually.
Tired, right?
Yeah.
And another simile that he gives is, suppose there was a pit that was filled with burning coal, and there were two strong men and who were dragging another man into that pit of coal. Would that man not do anything he could do to not go into that pit of coal? And yeah, this really helps for me as well, because sometimes I will be tempted to do something which I know that will make my mind like really hot. And then I just like picture myself like grabbing onto the leaves and clawing into the ground to not let myself go into that. And yeah, that can really help for me as well. Yeah, you can read that sutta. It's sutta number 41, if I'm right, in the Majjhima Nikaya. So
Okay.
that really helps as well. Yeah. So does anybody else have anything they want to share? Anything they want to talk about? Any questions? I see Lair. Go ahead. Your mic is still muted.
Hello.
Hi there.
All right. I am taking presence of practice to life, and things have gotten quite tricky. Instead of noticing I'm not being present and then just being present, and I picked up on it just now. It's like, oh, I'm not present, and then there's this pang of like worry or shame in my belly. It's like, no, now I need to be present. I need to be present. I need to be present. So that worry is there, and it's probably there from much before I even knew about meditation or presentness. It's probably coming from somewhere, and I'm going to investigate that. But I wonder if this is a normal. No, it is normal. I've heard other people deal with this exact same thing.
Oh,
if
definitely.
you guys have dealt with something similar, what has helped you?
Sorry, I just mute call for a second. Yeah, this is definitely very common, I bet, for everyone that does this practice. And yeah, that's basically what gets ingrained into our minds that we need to get things right. That when we want to be present all the time, we want to get it right. And something that that really helps is to congratulate yourself for waking up. So as soon as you wake up, congratulate yourself. And if you forget to congratulate yourself, and you notice that you forgot to congratulate yourself, then congratulate yourself for remembering to congratulate yourself for waking up. Because if you use that positive reinforcement, like treat your mind like a puppy, like oh, good job, then naturally, like, it will want is more likely to do it again. So if you keep remembering to remember and keep congratulating yourself, then it's going to become a habit to not get into dukkha when you wake up, basically. And one thing that really helps when you've already gotten into dukkha when you wake up is to tell yourself, I see that I don't like that I woke up and forgot to congratulate myself, but I don't have to hate it. I don't have to dislike the disliking, because that just like, when I do that, it's like a huge weight just gets like lifted off your shoulders. And that's like, if you can't catch it immediately, then no problem. Like, you can catch it at the disliking. So is there anybody else who would like to add something to that? Oh, okay, so
sorry, isn't this something Buddha always talk about, the second and the third arrow?
right.
You know.
Yeah.
No, I was just asking.
Yeah, exactly. So the first arrow would be like the waking up and disliking it, and then the second arrow would be disliking the disliking. And actually, the second arrow is usually a lot more painful than the first arrow. And in in my experience, this is also really where the upekkha, the equanimity or dynamic balance, however you want to call it, comes in. And what I noticed also in my recently in my practice is I've really gotten into the habits of like not hating that I dislike something, and it's just really comforting to practice in that way. So Amit, go ahead.
Yes, this is something I learned from Dhammarato, also in one specific talk where we discuss about the 7 factor of enlightenment, Sambojhana, and the first one is waking up, right? Sati. And Dhammarato said that the sati is not continuous. It's kind of coming and going. So waking up cannot be continuous. And people, when it's very highly developed, then it's coming faster. But even then, it's not a constant thing. So I mean, just to expect that you will be awake 24/7, bit too much expectation. So this is my understanding of the waking up. Right. But I also see what you are saying, Daniel, is if you train your mind, if you give it a positive feedback whenever you wake up, you congratulate. I think that will encourage the waking up to happen more frequently.
Yeah. Do you do that? Is it going well in your own practice as well, Amit?
Yeah, definitely. So this, yeah, at least, you know, this, I used to also have this problem before. I would think, oh, I was not mindful for so long. But now, after talking to Dhammarato for a while, I don't think like that. So I don't expect myself to be present all the time. But whenever I wake up, I try to congratulate. I mean, I take like a long deep breath. And as you say, sometimes I forget to do it, but when I remember, I will then congratulate myself. So
Yeah, that's really good. One thing I also like to do is, as soon as I wake up, I like to check how I'm feeling, because usually that's when I've already gotten into a bit of dukkha, because I've been like absent-minded. So that's a really good time to check the feelings. And then when I see any negative feelings, then I don't hate it. And I really try to focus on just feeling a little bit better each moment, and not trying to get rid of the negative feelings like instantly. Because sometimes you can do that, and that's when your sati is really strong. But when your sati is not that strong, the feelings and the attitudes are there's a gap between it. So we change our attitude, but the feelings, they don't change immediately. So we will say to ourselves, like, with the example I just gave, like, oh, I woke up and I see I don't like it, but I don't have to hate it. And then maybe after that, I had a long habit of thinking like, oh, I think I don't hate it, but actually I still feel bad. So what I then try to think is like, okay, I feel bad, but let me just feel a little bit better, because that's what I can have right now, and congratulate myself for that. And that really helps to get the positive feelings going. And Blair, you also mentioned that you have some feelings in the body, like feeling in your gut, in your belly. And maybe what can help is to breathe into that feeling, and start playing with the feeling, like seeing if you can like move it around. And that can really help to like dissolve it. Carl, I see you got your hands up, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna add, Blair, as well, as the thing that you develop now is this whole thing of meditation and meditators, like an attitude of I have to be present all the time. But the attitude that you're having is still the same of a loser, is that I have to do something. I'm still creating rules for myself in order to follow the rules, because I need the rules to be this good meditator. I need the rules to get myself out of dukkha. But that is not the case. It's just the attitude that you're having about the whole meditation is what's getting in the way of you coming out of your sufferings, dukkha. So the key here is to really look at it directly of how you're feeling. You said you feel sensations in your body. That's one indication that you need to take a deep breath. You need to relax the body. Then you see that you notice the thoughts. And what are you doing with those thoughts? Are you still hanging on around and saying, I'm not being present, look at me, I'm not being present? But you are being present with those negative thoughts. So now you need to just switch them back into something more positive, more nurturing. I'm okay. It's okay not to be present. That's okay. I don't have to be present all the time. And you start to create a new habit. You start to develop on this attitude. You start congratulating yourself. So it's what I'm hearing from you saying is that the attitude is not there. The attitude of I can do this, I can clear out my mind. You still fall into that victim mentality of this meditation is torturing me. I'm not being present. I'm not good enough. So we still come back to the same old practice. We still come back to finding these thoughts and not hanging on them, but throwing them out and then building up our attitude into a winner's attitude. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to share? David, I see you are still at What's to Unmoke. How are things over there?
Oh yeah, that's right. Pretty good. Have my own room in a dormitory.
No one is. Do you think you're gonna get a kuti at some point? Have they given any hints for that, or?
No one said anything like that yet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But actually, I'm one of the few people that have electricity all day here. Even the monks don't have electricity all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gets quite hot, so at least you have some ventilation.
Yes, I bought a fan too.
Oh, that's good.
David, are you planning on ordaining, or are you just hanging around in the What's with Monks?
Wouldn't say it's a plan at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been in the Wat for a long time already, like continuously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find it's an ideal place to see my mind, to experience my mind. So, yeah.
Good. All right. Well, I don't really have anything to share anymore. So, yeah, if there's no more questions, then Thomas, go ahead.
Okay. The idea of being attached to a teacher. I noticed myself a few times there was this idea that to rely to give wisdom for me. Will I have someone to guide me? And this kind of I was noticing that. Yeah, I'm still
Sorry,
okay.
your microphone is cutting out for me. I don't know if it's the same for anyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Maybe if you're a bit closer, then it picks up more.
All right. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the idea of clinging to a teacher, and definitely like the feeling of someone who can guide us, relating what's happening, and then of course finding the way, like myself, having that, and then developing the confidence that yeah, I can still do it. It's okay. I don't have to rely on anyone. Yeah, okay. And then, of course, seeing the wonderful opportunities like the Sangha is called right now. There is guidance. There is that same, you know, we are not.
Yeah, that's a good topic and point. And the Buddha did comment on this quite a lot in the suttas. There's a few things that he said about it. One of the things he said was, be a light unto yourself, or be an island unto yourself. I've heard a few translations. So yeah, he figured it out by himself. And yeah, for I guess, yeah, the practice, like in general, is going to look more or less the same for every person, but everybody is going to have their own, way of practicing. And just go by your own experience, see what works for you. But what the Buddha also recommended is that any teacher, whatever they teach, it should be compared against the suttas and against the Vinaya. So if it contradicts the suttas, then it's not a legit teaching. And sometimes the suttas can be a bit difficult to interpret. So it's good to get like multiple perspectives on the suttas. And don't like my attitude personally is like I'm just investigating what Dhammarato is talking about, and if I end up thinking that this is not the path, then I will will change. But so far it has been really good for me. So I highly recommend you to look at your own experience and also study the suttas. This can be really helpful. And looks like Carl has something to add to this.
Yeah, probably the last thing I'll add is the clinging to the teacher is the same clinging as somebody's clinging to their kind of right hand, or me clinging to a joint, or clinging to any kind of freeing from the suffering. Clinging to a teacher is just clinging to the knowledge. You put too much importance on the knowledge that you get provided from the teacher, and that becomes your kind of freeing from momentary dukkha that you were having. That's the only thing we're really seeing here. So it all still comes back to the practice, is to seeing how is your attitude when you're listening to the teacher. Is probably of a champion, because Dhammarato puts us in such a good mood. He puts us in attitudes of the winner. And I think it best ties everything up, as he says, the only book you need to read is in between your ears. To me, that stuck really deeply, because that's the only thing, as even Daniel said, is practicing. You have to look inside yourself and find what works for you at this moment, because it's still like juggling multiple ingredients and putting everything together into that nice state, that getting into the first jhana, getting relaxed, getting nice, and developing that attitude. And congratulations for seeing that as well, because that's what we also need to do. Is you said you see that as you're talking right now, you see that you're clinging. So that's another good point, that you can congratulate yourself, that you can see that you got yourself into this kind of habit of needing this knowledge, or feeling good when this knowledge comes.
Thank you, Carl. Dhruv, I see you also got something to add.
Yes, Dhruv in. I was just reminded of a story. I think I heard it from one of Ajahn Amaro's talks, and it's about Ajahn Sumedho's attitude towards Ajahn Chah. So like, I'm paraphrasing heavily, and it might have been lost a little bit in translation, but I think the core message has been retained, which is one time a young Ajahn Sumedho, as I'm sure is very common in a monastery, especially if you're new to it, and even if you're not, was like, oh, I don't like how this thing is run, I don't like how this thing is managed. And also, Ajahn Chah, you like tell everyone else to not smoke, but you smoke yourself, and you like, there's just like a bunch of things like that. And so Ajahn Sumedho goes to Ajahn Chah with a long list of complaints about his own attitude. And the clinging there is not just to the teacher, but to the kind of ideal of a teacher, like this idea of what Ajahn Chah should be. And there is a clinging in some sense to what his teacher is, because he wasn't accepting it. So he was actually the clinging of aversion. So he was averse to what Ajahn Chah, the way he really was. And Ajahn Chah's response was something along the lines of, well, it's just as well I'm not perfect and a Buddha, because then you would look for the Buddha in me, when in fact you should be looking at the Buddha in you. And we think of Buddha as a person, but we also should remember Buddha as how he said, I am awake, not I am the awakened one. There's a very difference. The difference in that in English is very obvious. If I say I am the awakened one, that's like a title or a thing I'm giving myself. And fair enough to the Buddha, but he's also saying I am awake. That's a different attitude, right? I'm not a human. I'm not a deva. I'm not an asura. I am awake. And so one of the things I appreciate about the Thai forest tradition is that they point to that as the teacher, that awakening, that as a teacher that you can take a refuge in, that knowing as a teacher. And I find that's very, very, very wholesome way to appropriate. But at the same time, I have teachers. I consider Dhammarato to be a teacher, even if it's not a formal relationship, in that someone I learn from, right? And there's some people I learn from a lot more than other people, so I consider them, the word teacher. I kind of think of it as I'm out, let's say camping or on an adventure of some sort, and the spiritual life is an adventure, right? And I want to do it myself, but also there's a healthy knowledge that, I can't necessarily do it alone, but I don't need someone holding my hand the whole way, right? Thinking that, you can do it alone. Maybe you can, it's great, but so for many people, and I think for me, I think that would be very much an ego thing. But also thinking that I need someone to hold my hand every step of the way, that's also another ego thing, thinking the attitude of a loser. And so I think of it as, in some sense, the same way I think of my relationship with my parents. I'm managing my life right now, but if I get stuck, I will definitely give them a call. And that attitude, that's the safety and security, right? Now the teacher is building my sense of safety and security rather than being a substitute for it. So yeah, those two things, that teacher building the sense of security and also taking the refuge in the knowing or the awareness or the consciousness or the being awake simply as the actual, that's the ultimate teacher. I find to be very helpful orientations in my practice, and I hope they are helpful to you too through going out.
It's interesting what you shared about Ajahn Sumedho, because Dhammarato also said about Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, yeah, he's really good at practicing, but he's still human. He has all his quirks and well, I could call them faults. I don't know if that's really the correct word, but yeah, he has all of the things that makes him human. And even the Buddha probably had some imperfections. So yeah, I also remember that when Dhammarato would criticize me for something that I thought was not fair, thought was really stupid, and then I was really offended, and or he would do something that I thought I'm not sure what to think of that. But that's when I really started realizing that I cannot depend on anyone else but myself. So it can be actually helpful to see it in that way, that your teachers are also human, and that you should not necessarily take their every word as the absolute truth or whatever. So I thought someone else had their hands goes up as well. So I don't really have anything else to add anymore. So we've been at it for 1 hour. So does anyone have any last things to say?
I'd just like to say that there's been so much wholesomeness this.
Yes, I really, really enjoyed this too. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and splendid call.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.